set up over here and then we're going to get started. Skip this way a little bit. And find myself on lava. All right, so my comments are going to be, hey Sherry, as my comments will be here too. That's great. But I have backup over here on the laptop. So welcome if you are, if you're catching this later, because I'm posting this on the YouTube channel in an intentional spinning playlist. The original was videoed as Facebook Live in the Wool and Fiber Arts community, where I have been doing this project. But I think that I have people joining from all over, so that's kind of exciting. So, hey Cheryl, hey Lisa. So if you're joining, tell me where you're from, and if you have picked a yarn from this session yet. So I'll, that's my book. I'm going to catch people up just a little bit. So I was doing the schedule yesterday. I do the little weekly demo event schedule for WAFA and post that. And I thought, there's nothing going on Tuesday. There should be something going on Tuesday. And I have been trying to sit down at my wheel for a while now. We're getting ready for an in-person show. And I thought, if I schedule it with friends, I'll do it. So that's what I did. And I'm going to take an hour or if everybody's gone in less than an hour, I'll turn off the live. But you know how that is, sometimes I just have to plan things with friends so that I take the time to do them. So that's what I did today. So as a catch up for anybody who hasn't been following along, we are working our way, this might be backwards, through the Spinner's Book of Yarn Designs by Sarah Anderson. It's a wonderful book. There's so much information in here. And then in the back, there are cards so you could have this little deck of cards, and it will give you the information about how thick or thin the yarn, which way to spin. It is just really a great guidepost. So we've worked our way through the first few chapters. We kicked off maybe last Friday. The third and fourth chapter, we had done singles for plying. And then we moved ahead, and the next chapter was standalone singles. And I didn't know if people were tired of singles, and Catherine Byers had this great idea. I was trying to figure out if we should just skip the next chapter, and she said let's combine it. And so we're combining standalone singles and spiral yarns. And the day that I kicked off, I attempted a wrapped single, which is when you spin the single at the same time that you're wrapping it with generally something thinner than that. So I had a bat, the same bat I'm going to use today from Erica. It's called Hillside, and it has a whole variety of just wonderfully decadent stuff in it. I didn't love the process of spinning those two things together. I felt like I was kind of chasing myself. And so I took the little bit off that I had spun. And I think I'll come back to it, but I liked I don't know if you can see it. So what I'm plying, this one isn't plied because they're both going the same directions, but the other yarn is kind of a copper colored metallic thread. And I love to ply with it. So today my plan is I'm going to turn the camera on my spinning wheel. It won't be exciting or fancy. And I'm going to spin the thick or lofty single for a yarn in the next one, which is a spiral yarn. And I think that I'm just going for the basic spiral yarn. And again, I apologize if this is backwards. So it's done with a commercial thread and then a single. And I'm looking for a fat single, and that's all relative. We talked about this, you know, what is thin and fat to you is different than might be thin and fat for me. You know, because you kind of create your variation. So, all right. Hey, Barbara, Kristen, Kathy, Olga, welcome you all. This has been such a fun project, and I love that I'm doing it with friends. And I know this is kind of a weird medium to do it with. I thought about doing Zoom today, and I often feel like I don't get as many people that come along to a Zoom, and I get that. Zooms are a little weird, and they kind of put you on the spot. So I'm doing it this way today. I would love your feedback in the comments if you'd like to do a Zoom spin along, because I'd be happy to do that too. Erica does one, and I didn't really want to step on her toes because she has a spin along that she's been doing for a long time. You know, so if you want to get together with a great group of folks and just spin, I think they go on Thursday nights. Okay. I know, Wendy, I just love this book too. There's so much information in it. And, you know, spinning is such an adventure. And I feel like I'm an adventurous spinner. I like to try lots of different things. I have strong feelings usually about things, and I'm not afraid to share them. So, and everybody's different. So, you know, somebody might like something that somebody really might like that spiral spinning or whatever it was. And I haven't given it much of a chance. So, you know, I know that. Okay, let me see. My phone is telling me who's here, but it's not telling me what you're saying. So I'm going to peek over here at comments. And see. Lots of folks here. Yay. Hey, Jean. Jean is not going to spin anything right now. What a fine decision. I think, I loved watching I loved watching you learn to spin. That was so fun. It makes it so fresh for folks who have done it for a long time. And I think brings us back to a place where, kind of like this book kind of brought me back to the beginning and made me think about, because I really am a self-taught spinner. I think I took a class maybe a few years into spinning from someone who had very rigid expectations about what would happen in spinning, and I was new enough that and I didn't spin like that. I didn't necessarily spin consistent. I didn't necessarily spin thin. I didn't necessarily want to. What I had in my pasture was Navajo churro. And so I was, spinning funky art yarn so that I could knit and felt it. So my needs were very different. And I don't think the person that I took those lessons from really felt like you had to start at this, kind of perfect, consistent place. And that wasn't for me. But I learned that about myself. Okay. So what I am doing today, I'm going to spin this. I have a length of the bat, and we'll see if that's enough. If not, I have another one torn off here. This is just going to be a test spin to kind of see how thick I want it to be to create that yarn. So I'm going to spin it, and then I have my ball winder here, and I'll probably wind it off and just check and see what I've got going on. See, Jean, being accountable to an audience is not a bad idea. Yes, Wendy, I agree with that. And the other thing that those lessons did is they really informed me as an instructor. So, you know, I hope that students get a good foundation of technique. But you know, so many new spinners are so hard on themselves about it's overspun, or it's big, or it pulled it out of my hand, or, you know, and sometimes it's hard to hear when you're new, you know, hang on to that first yarn, because at some point it's going to be hard to come back to that crazy stuff. But, you know, it's all a part of an adventure, and you learn something about yourself and about your wheel and about the fiber that you spin and all of those kinds of things. Kristen, I'm glad there was somebody else that didn't love that. Oh, I hadn't thought about pre-drafting. That's a great idea. There was just, like some of the other yarns I've tried, I felt like I needed a third hand or a really friendly octopus to help me or something like that. Hi, Tuck. Okay, so I'm going to pitch this down here, and I'm just going to do a little bit of spinning. And the way my tech, move out, buddy. The way my tech is set up today, I have to, the laptop is going to tell me where I'm pointing the camera, and there's a little lag. So give me just a second to get this set up where you all can see, because I've got to wait till it catches up with me. Okay, let's pop this over maybe a little bit more. Maybe just a touch more. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this fiber, I'll tell you, in this bat is merino bamboo, hand-dyed by Curly Cues, merino hand-dyed by Udemy to You, merino bamboo nylon, and then some bamboo, and it's a layered bat. And I have been spinning those fine singles. So I'm going to have to make some adjustments, and I have, I backed the tension all the way off. This is a Majacraft Aura, and here is the tension, and I need to drop it down just a little bit. I'm not going to do that right now. I need to drop it down so that I can get a little more give in that. But I dropped it all the way down so that there was no tension. So I have no tension on here at all. So it's not gonna, it is not gonna take it from me, and I might need to speed that up just a little bit, because I don't want a lot of overspin on this, since I'm going to since I'm going to apply it right away, just let's see, my fingers want to spin that thin stuff. No. Okay. Just maybe a little bit more here. So what I'm getting here is a thick and thin, right? So maybe that flame yarn, whether I'm going to spin it or not. Okay, I think I'm going to spin maybe half of what I pulled off here because I want to have enough of a sample. And clearly I'm not spinning very... my intention is not to necessarily spin a consistent yarn with this. Okay, I'm going to tweak this a little bit. I wish Facebook allowed a little zoom. That would really help, but it doesn't. So it's hard to get my hands in here. Let's try that. I'll try to draft a little closer. All right, let's get some of that beautiful emerald. Oop, other way around. I love this wheel because I don't need my hands to get it started. All right, so besides Kristen, anybody else tried anything out of any of these chapters? Okay. So the tricky part now is to get it over to my ball winder without losing my twist. So give me just a minute. Let's see if we can get this nailed off onto a ball here. So if you're spinning tonight, tell me what you're, not just if you finished something in the project, but if you're working on something, then tell me what that is. I don't know if anybody has tried the GIMP yarn. The tricky part of testing a spin is that, unlike knitting, or maybe knitting has this same thing too, it takes me a little while to get into the groove. Like 10 minutes of spinning to get into, if I'm doing a thick and thin, how... what the groove is of that and how many treadles of my feet, or if I'm counting, or if I'm kind of looking at it and gauging how close or how far away. Okay. So this is going to be tricky too, because now I've got it on a ball. And what it's going to want to do is unwind or untwist. We did have a conversation about that and decided, generally speaking, you don't finish yarn until after it's plied. But this also hasn't rested, so I know that, I know that about this yarn as well. Okay, let's tip this back over here. Okay, just checking to see if anybody's chatting out there. So my single was Z. So we're going to be we're going to be applying S. Pretty sure. I'm looking at the book. I don't know why we wouldn't be. And sometimes she calls to start for a direction that I don't start. Okay, yep, Z single, and then yarns applied S. Okay, so here we go. And then there's a whole thing about the tension. Tension in the thin ply. Hold the thin ply taut and straight out from the orifice, allowing the fatter ply to gently wrap around it. If you put more tension on the fatter ply, the spiral will flatten out. And I think that there's also some, what's the word I want to use? Some variation in what your angle is. And I am not a technical spinner. Okay, so there's my yarn or my thread, and I have it in a little bucket so it doesn't wander across. Or if the dog comes along, that I have some hope of keeping it under control. Okay, so I'm losing some of the twist here. I'm gonna take that up. Tie this on, and then I'm gonna actually flip sides because I'm pretty right-handed, and let's tie that on again. I'm pretty right-handed, so I'm gonna be holding the tying a knot here, and clearly it takes all the brain power I have to tie a knot. So, I want to be able to hold it taut. Scooch up a little bit. There we go. Okay, here's my thread. It's hard to see. Okay, and I'm gonna squeeze that here, and I'm gonna just put a little bit of tension on it. Just doesn't feel like very much, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, and then we're going S, which is left. Let's get there. Okay. Okay, so that looks like coarse spinning. Oh, there we go. Really loose. Okay, got a little over twist there, so I'm going to work that out because the twist wants to go to the place of least resistance. That's why your thin parts over twist and the thick parts end up loose like that. Okay, so really, really loose. Okay, I might have to back that off just a little bit. Fun stuff, you guys.
have an idea for a weaving that I'm thinking about using this for. Okay, so that was a pretty loose spot, and I'm gonna just give it a little twist with my finger there. Okay. So I'm really doing is taking that twist out of this thin part here. Oh, I really like, it'd been great if it had been intentional. I really like where it's thin here and then it's thicker. So that flame yarn that she talks about. And again, I can see that as and as a design element in a weaving. My brain is always thinking weaving. Okay, kind of thick there. And then we're going to come back to kind of thin here. Love this. Okay, it's kind of thick. So I'm going to give that a little bit more twist. Coming to the end, and it's all wrapped around itself here. Okay, there we go. So really, I'm not trying very hard with this yarn over here. I'm just letting it take itself up. So I'm curious about what will happen when this gets finished. Okay, so what I usually do with my art yarns is I tie a knot, and that doesn't keep it from unwinding, but often there's more than one part to an art yarn, so I want it to be so this got kind of loose. And again, so it's untwisting a little bit, and so part of it looks like a coil and part of it looks like a spiral. And I'm wondering, I would love to hear from anyone who spins spirals regularly, how you keep that from happening when you're taking your yarn off. Because that was a tension thing, I assume. Okay, I am going to wind this off on the nitty knotty. Is it gonna come? Okay. That is really, just don't feel all that tight. Okay, where's my little nitty knotty here? Okay, so I'm gonna wind this on with the, come on. I don't want to pull this very hard because that, you know, that thread isn't that sturdy. Thanks, Emily. It is really pretty, but really this looks more like a coil. You know, I can't, you know, here I can see the thread. Oops. Here I can see the thread. This looks like coil, like a really loose coil spinning. More thread. This looks like a regular ply. So, you know, I have some technique to work on, partly in the spinning, and then I think in the what happens next with it. You know, I can see that this would be something that I might lightly felt when I finished it, so that I would maintain, you know, this look here, where I can see that thread. And I'll have to go back and see if the author mentions that at all. You know, I would think just a little. She talks about, I think it's Judith McKenzie who did the thing where she put it in the sink and then took a plunger and plunged on the yarn just a little bit. And that, you know, was enough to kind of lock those fibers in place without changing the structure of the yarn. So I really am hand unwinding this because I don't want to yank on that thread. Which, you know, which would also inform how you use the yarn. You know, that might mean that it would be good for, I don't know, something decorative, but maybe not for a scarf that would get somewhere. I don't know. That'd be something to test out and see. Or maybe a thread that was a little stronger. Okay, so I'm going to tie this off here. Okay, so kind of fun. Okay, so I'm going to try not to have so many long pauses. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do some more spinning of that thick and thin and try to get into a little groove here. And if you guys want to hang out and spin or chat in the comments, I would love for you to do that. And if I see no eyeballs, I will turn off the camera and spin a little here myself. It is a really soft yarn, Wendy. It's so squishy. And this bat is just, you know, lovely. All of that merino and bamboo. You know, even though, oops, see, now I'm talking to the laptop. Even though this part looks like more like a core spin, it's really pretty. And usually when I'm core spinning or coil spinning, I'm I'm pushing it up and making sure that it's really tight, which does not make for a really lofty yarn. So, this, lots of things to think about. If I were actually going to do a core spin like this, I would use something that hung on to the yarn a little better. Sometimes it's how I use yarns that I've made that I don't love. I'll use them as my core. Sometimes I am on the hunt for a good but not terribly expensive mohair boucle. So if anyone knows anything about that, I would love to core spin, but mohair boucle is expensive. And then to cover it up seems, I don't know. I don't know. I was going to say wasteful, maybe not wasteful, but it seems a shame to cover up perfectly good mohair boucle. But I know lots of people use that because it grips onto that. Okay, so I'm just going to spin a little here, and I'd turn on music, but Facebook doesn't like that, so we won't do that. But I really did like the thick and thin options, so I am headed for some of that. I know, Emily, wouldn't that be beautiful in a weaving? I think so we went to the Shacked warehouse sale last Friday. It was a good sport and went along, or she was worried that, I was going to blow my budget. I don't know. And I had thought that I was going to get an Eris loom, and then I talked to several people and realized that it really wasn't going to do what I wanted it to do. I'm not looking. I have a big traditional tapestry loom. And what I liked about the Eris is that it has a shedding mechanism, but it's not really set up for things that are not traditional tapestry. So I don't think that I could have done crook-rug on it or twill, or I don't know. And so we went anyway. And we got there, I don't know, maybe an hour after it had started. And sounds like most of the, I think there were lots of one-of-a-kind things, and a lot of the good stuff went before we got there. But they happened to have the heddle I was looking for me, and 2 heddles for a friend. And then I was looking for a stand for my flip rigid heddle, which I've had for almost 2 years and haven't used yet. But I don't want to use it on a table. I don't think that's going to be very good for my back. And they didn't have one in the warehouse sale, but we went up to the main office and they had one. So I don't know where I was going with that story. Oh, I know. So I really want to weave on the flip. It's 25 inches wide, so 10 inches wider than my Cricut. And I want to weave some, we've got some places in the house where I just need to zhuzh it up a little bit. And so, let's see, I need another piece here. And so I want to weave some panels. Our upstairs is, if I had to say it had a color scheme, it's kind of blues and browns. I love that combination. And so I want to do some neutrals and blues and browns in a couple of panels. One for above our stairwell, and then a couple maybe to cover up the all the cords and stuff behind the TV. There's just, there's just no elegant way to cover those up. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I'm gonna have to fix that. I really took all the tension off because my tensioner is, the little screw came out. Okay, there we go. Now I've got a little more tension on there. Okay, catching up. So Emily, apparently the best part we missed. Apparently there was a, I don't know if it was a cranbrook or a baby wolf, but there was a big loom, and there were 3 people like fighting over it. Is what I heard. So we missed the drama by getting there a little late. So I'm not necessarily sorry I missed that, but I think it's kind of funny. Folks do love their stuff, and my guess is there is some concern because they've sold, that things might change, although they had signs up saying that they were hiring, and I think part of the deal was that that their workforce kept their jobs. So when we go to usually Shacked, but when we go to Boulder, there's a city called Longmont, kind of halfway between, and they have a cheese emporium. So the 2 lactose intolerant gals went to the cheese emporium. It's really cool. They have all kinds of French, they're really boxed pastries, but and then they have a huge refrigerated room with cheese from every country. And so we had what we call French dinner that night. So we usually get a crusty loaf of bread and shoot the rapids with a little bit of soft cheese. We can eat hard cheese usually, and some fruit and stuff. And it was lovely, and just a nice little field trip and good to get away. Okay, so I'm just yammering on here. I know, right? I couldn't decide if I wanted to have seen the fight or not, and I don't know how it worked itself out, but the loom was gone, so somebody got it. I'm hoping. I think there are a few people coming to Fab from the guild, and my guess is that somebody in the guild will know the story. So I saw Maggie Casey and talked to her for just a little bit. She's still I think she's still selling off some things from her store. So the heddles that we bought, I think, were actually from her store, Shuttle, Spindles, and Skeins. And both Barry Schacht and Jane Patrick were there. I haven't talked to either of them. But we often see Barry when we go. It's kind of our fiber field trip that we take folks on when they come. Oh, so you guys can't see anything. Somebody should be yelling at me. That's not very exciting. I'm just yammering away. Hands. I don't know. What are more interest? The hand is probably more interesting than the bobbin. Just a little bit. Wasn't that the best kind of dinner? It's my favorite dinner. Toot and I went on she got this, I don't know, evening for two. Her retired teachers get together, and sometimes they have giveaways, and so we got to go and do a night at a olive oil and vinegar place, and they cooked for us, and we got to taste all this stuff. And so we brought some great olive oils home, and so we have some for dipping, so we dipped some of the bread. But we got a blood orange infused olive oil, and Toot makes this gluten-free. Sydney is gluten-free, and she makes this amazing like dark chocolate cake with that olive oil. So it's chocolate and orange, and it's just really yummy. All right, how's it going out there? Oh, you have to go to the cheese place, Kristen. It's great. They have just a little bit of everything, but I love to go and look at all the cheeses and dream about all the cheeses in the refrigerated. It's like, I don't know, 4 times this, maybe 5 times the size of this room. It's huge, and they have it all set up with all of the different countries and all their cheeses, and cured meats that would go on a charcuterie board with cheese. And then they have all kinds of kitchen stuff, books. I've had lots of recipe books from there. Ooh, that's going to be really thin. Really, really thin. So it's going to be fun. I am not really many step process things challenged me and my brain, because my brain wants that, that dopamine rush right away. So this book has challenged me because, most plied yarns need at least 2 plies. And so I have to think about how that's going to go. And that it's going to take a while just before I see that finished yarn. Which is funny, because my favorite yarns to make are, probably core spun and coil spun. All right, how are we doing? All right. the numbers are dropping a little bit, so I'm gonna do a little more. Let's see if anybody I'm making you hungry. Yeah, it's almost about dinner time. We gotta go feed horses first. So anybody have any questions? We've got another few weeks on this chapter, so and you're not behind. Nobody's behind. You can participate or however you want in this project. I'm interested, whether you're spinning or not, I'm interested in, you know, what you're thinking and what you're learning and you know, what of your spinning mind has been challenged by this. So the next, I need to get a dedicated post up so we can do some, so we can post some photos. I'll try to do that tonight after I get home. And then the kickoff for the next one, which is, I'm gonna look and see what the next chapter is. Let's see here, we're on spirals. Okay, so the next one is opposing plies. Most plies yarns are designed to balance out. For opposing plies, you recklessly toss rules of balance out the window and start with one Z twist and one S twist and one Z twist. So the plying twists one of the singles further in its room. Ooh, this sounds like fun. So pigtail yarn and energy. Oh, I love cables. Cables are so fun. So this is an energized cable. I love to ply stuff back on itself again and again and again and see what I get. A short skein of yarn is mostly what I get, but it's really fun to see them cable just like snap into place. So the kickoff for the next one is the week before the June sale. And I don't know what the dates are on that, but the June sale is the last full weekend of the month. Okay, I'm gonna pop back up here. All right, you guys. This was nice. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Lots of pigtails, right? Right? So now you have a reason. And sometimes when you have a reason, then you can't make it work out, but what fun is that? I love it when I will sometimes ply, I'll do core spun, and then coil, and then core, and then coil. And when you do that, I don't know what she called, I can't remember what she called, knops, I think, K-N-O-P-P, where you have the plied one and you go back up and down, so it leaves like this little bump. I love doing that. And I love doing different plies in a yarn, just because I can, right? Okay. Next, what's today? Tuesday? Friday, I'm doing a little loom demo. It will be whatever I have on my loom. I'm making samples for my booth. So right now I'm working on twill study. Come here, honey. I'm working on a study in twill. So I might still be working on that. I'm hoping to be on the third one. I'd like to have 4 for my booth.
So I'll do whatever's on my loom will be what's going to happen on Friday for a little loom weaving. Same time as tonight, 7 Eastern. And then the following week we're out at Estes Park. So nothing's happening that week. And then I'll be back the following week with something. I think maybe that following week, because I think June is kind of a short month the way it wraps around maybe. But it is probably show and tell for these chapters, for chapter 3 and 4. So if you want to do something and you want to show and tell, that'll be a Zoom, and it will, yeah, it's a Zoom. So that's what's coming up. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I hope you join me on Friday if you're interested in loom weaving, and that you have a wonderful week next week. And I will see you, if you don't come on Friday, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. So thank you so much for joining me.